Hello, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed your dinner. I want to move the program forward and get to a very important part of this evening, which is when we present the 6th annual ACS David Carliner Public Interest Award. And this award recognizes outstanding public interest lawyers whose work best exemplifies its namesake's legacy of fearless, uncompromising, and creative advocacy on behalf of marginalized people. The winner receives a $10,000 prize, and this year, the award has been expanded to honor a runner-up with a grant of $2,500. The award was established in memory of one of the great public interest lawyers of the 20th century, David Carliner, who was a true champion of justice, both in his native Washington, D.C., and on the national stage. David Carliner was a tireless, innovative litigator who also played a leading role in building institutions devoted to protecting civil and human rights and combating injustice on a systemic basis. A pioneering immigration lawyer, an ardent foe of Jim Crow, and a leading champion of full political rights for the citizens of the District of Columbia. It's always an applause line. And he was also the founding chair of the American Civil Liberties Union National Capital Area and the International Human Rights Law Group, which is now GlobalRights. ACS is honored to bestow an award bearing his name. And this year, the volume and the quality of the applications we received was truly inspiring. The unenviable task of selecting just one winner and one finalist fell to a distinguished panel of judges. Nan Aaron, Tamiko Brown-Nagin, Judge William Fletcher, Judge Patricia Wald, Deborah Carliner, and Sarah Remus, who discharged their responsibilities admirably. The American Constitution Society is honored to partner with the Carliner family in presenting this award, which recognizes lawyers who have devoted their careers to the values that all ACS members share. I would like to thank the Carliner family for being such a pleasure to work with in conceiving and launching this wonderful initiative. It would be hard for anyone who comes to know them to believe that a passion for justice is other than an inherited trait. Here to present the ACS David Carliner Award is Sarah Remus, the granddaughter of David Carliner.
My grandfather would have been pleased not just by the exceptionally high caliber of this year's applicants, but also by the range of issues to which the applicants have devoted their lives. I'm pleased to announce the finalist for the David Carliner Public Interest Award is Barbara Graves-Poller, supervising attorney with MFY Legal Services in New York. For the past several years, Ms. Graves-Poller has grown the capacity of her organization to represent grandparents and other relatives caring for young children, to help address systemic issues in these caregivers' lives, and to aggressively challenge the Administration for Children's Services decisions and hold that agency accountable for the lives of the children. So please congratulate Ms. Graves-Poller. The winner of the 2014 David Carliner Public Interest Award is Peter Wagner, co-founder and executive director of Prison Policy Initiative. Mr. Wagner has, beginning with even before law school, has devoted his entire professional career to fighting on behalf of prison inmates and their families and communities, and fighting against the corporate reasons for mass incarceration. He co-founded Prison Policy Initiative while still in law school with the goal to expose some of the unseen incentives that encourage mass incarceration. my grandfather would have been proud of Mr. Wagner's devotion, creative thinking, and initiative. Prison Policy Initiative was one of the first to bring national attention to the issue of prison gerrymandering, whereby prisoners are counted as residents of the mostly rural areas where the prisons are located, rather than the mostly urban areas where they are from, for purposes of determining political districts and government financing. This results in increased political power for areas housing prisons at the expense of the prisoners' communities. Maryland is just one of the states that changed its policies as a result of Mr. Wagner's work. Thanks in large part to Mr. Wagner's efforts, the Census Bureau is considering a permanent federal solution in time for the 2020 census. More recently, Mr. Wagner has turned his attention to other issues that favor the prison industry at the expense of prisoners and their families. For example, he and his organization have pushed to change the common practice of charging extortionist rates for telephone calls for prisoners to call home. Please join me in congratulating Peter Wagner. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. This is a really big honor for me, and I see it as a critical milestone for the criminal justice reform movement, because I went to law school a decade ago when prison populations were going up, up, and up, and the only way it looked like it was ever going to go from that moment was more up. But at this time, the powers that be and the established progressive movement were not welcoming to criminal justice advocates and didn't care what we had to say. And this award, named for human rights champion David Carliner, is a huge honor because it recognizes criminal justice issues and the victories that we've all in this room won together over the last decade are progressive victories. I think it's absolutely essential that our justice policies be fair, and it's critical that our policies actually make our communities stronger and safer. Now, doctors are guided by the Hippocratic Oath of do no harm. Our criminal justice system is not set up to meet the same standard. Instead, we have a set of policies that do little more than exacerbate existing racial and economic disparities and do not address the actual problems of crime. So I co-founded the Prison Policy Initiative to try to change that reality. I wanted to collaborate with other criminal justice experts, such as incarcerated people, their families, with other lawyers, to force our country to confront the fact that our criminal justice system had grown so large that it was punishing everyone, including people who are not directly involved in the criminal justice system. Take the US Census that Sarah talked about. This wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter where the Census Bureau counted incarcerated people if there weren't 2 million of them, largely people of color, being counted in the wrong place. And it wouldn't matter if we didn't use this data to draw legislative districts. So what prison gerrymandering does, it subtly shifts in a very consistent way, but subtly puts its thumb on the scale of democracy to ensure that the prison lobby gets their needs met. Instead, this is a large reason why when we go to the legislature, the prison system gets its needs met, and every other priority that we want to see get passed gets passed over. So, and this is kind of tearing up on this because when I took on prison gerrymandering more than a decade ago, what we had was little more than this incredibly complicated conspiracy theory. And over the last decade, in no small part due to the encouragement of a whole bunch of people that are in this room, I was able to connect the dots and build this broad, multi-sector movement that's permanently changed how our democracy works in 4 states and hundreds of counties. Now, like some of you, thank you. Now, like some of you that are here, I decided to use my law school degree to focus exclusively on policy. But policy change also needs litigators, and I don't mean just for litigation. Let me share a quick story. 18 months ago, we did this report focusing on something that I think is perhaps more disturbing than prison gerrymandering. A child who wants to receive a call from her father in a state prison often has to pay $1 a minute for that call. Now, when my stepdaughter called me yesterday to tell me about her report card, that call barely cost her or her mom anything. But in prisons, there is no choice. The telephone company is picked by the prison, and get this, the prison chooses the company based on which one is going to charge the most. That's because the companies pay the prisons a commission, which is nothing more than a fancy word for a kickback. That report that we did made a bigger splash than anything we've ever done before. Then 2 criminal justice defense attorneys reached out and changed everything. They said, gee, this is great, but you missed some things. You have to focus on jails, and you have to focus on fees. They were right. Jails really matter. There's 13 million people who cycle through jails every year. 1 out of every 3 people that are locked up tonight are locked up in a jail. And fees, that's the real ripoff. So beyond charging $1 a minute for a phone call, this is an industry that makes you pay in advance, that will charge you $8 to make a credit card payment, that will charge you a monthly fee for the privilege of being a customer, and then when you get out of jail, will charge you a fee to get your own money refunded. You put this all together, it's $400 million that's being pulled out of the bank accounts of some of the poorest families in this country. So based on this input to look at the jails and look at the fees, we did another report and included 1,200 pages of evidence that we sent, and this report played a major role in the Federal Communications Commission capping the rates that can be charged for calls home and requiring that the fees all be reduced. These 2 defense lawyers knew where we should look because they're on the ground and their vantage point allows them to see the patterns that policy folks like me can't, regardless of how much subject matter expertise I develop. To the policy people in the room, it's really obvious that we have to keep on working together. But to the litigators in the room, keep doing what you do, and please keep an eye out for ways that your experiences can help inform and advance policy discussions. I'm confident that if all of the different parts of the legal profession work together, we can make a better, safer, and more just world. And I really just wanted to again thank the ACS and the Carliner family for honoring my and all of our work this evening, and just thank you all very much. This is an amazing honor. Thank you.